Hi everyone, Belinda here from Belinda's DIYs. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you and I hope that you stick around long enough so that you can subscribe. In today's video, I'm going to be creating these simple and beautiful home decor. These can be displayed as Valentine home decor, but they can also transition into the springtime. So if you're ready, let's get to crafting. With the first DIY, I'm going to be using this Dollar Tree picture frame with the beads up at the top. Now I'm going to start by just removing the wrapping off of it. I'm also going to be using these pink roses and also some white ones. And as you can see, this is a really pretty frame and I also love the wording. Now this, you can remove the insert by just removing the little holders that it has on the back, but I'm gonna leave it as is. I'll be using some of this moss to cover the front of the insert. So what I'm gonna do is just cover the insert with just a light layer of this moss. And I'll be using some hot glue to glue it down. So I want this to look like a patch of grass. This is really not going to be showing, but I just thought in case it shows through under the roses, I want it to look like if there's some grass underneath. That's why I'm doing this. And this is how it looks with the moss. Now I have to say, I kind of like the way this looks. I'd like your thoughts on this. Would you leave it just like that? Next, I'm going to be cutting the roses off their stems. And these roses are from Dollar Tree. And I didn't cut enough, so I'm gonna cut that little stem completely off the rose. I don't want it to have no stem at all. And now I'm just gonna glue the roses down onto the moss. I'll be gluing down 3 roses next to each other and it's gonna form a row. Next, I'll be adding a row of white roses, and these are also from Dollar Tree. And for the last row, I'm going to be using some more pink roses. And now I have a beautiful bed of roses on a beaded wood frame. Now isn't this beautiful? For this next DIY, I'm going to be using 3 of these Dollar Tree books, and what I'm going to be doing is changing these book covers from Dollar Tree. Now I bought these a while back with the intention that I wanted to paint them, but I ran into a problem, and that is that it has the wording on the spine, and I figured if I paint these, the wording is still going to stand out. So I'm going to be covering them with some white paper that I purchased at Dollar Tree in the teachers section. So what I'm going to do is cover these 3 books using the old-fashioned way like you used to when we were in school covering our books. So I'll be doing that to all 3 of them. And there you have it, a book with a new book cover. And now I have all the 3 books all covered and they look so nice and pretty and so white, but I am going to paint them. I'll be using this Waverly chalk paint in the color Ballet Slippers to paint 2 of the books. So I'm going to start by lightly brushing some of that pink color on my book, and I'm going to start on the spine, and then also I'm going to move on to the front side. But I'm not going to cover it with the paint completely. I'm going to let some of the white peek through. And this is how it turned out, and now I'm going to let this dry and move on to the second book. I'll be using the Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral for this second book. I'll be using the same technique. I'm going to brush on the paint lightly, but I'm only going to paint the spine of the book. Since this is going to be the middle book, I don't need to paint the top or the bottom sides. And lastly, I'm going to paint the third book, and I'm only going to paint the spine in the pink color. Now I'm going to go ahead and let the paint dry on the books. So I want to show you this heart that's from Dollar Tree. Now I had painted this pink with that same ballet slipper color, and I was going to use it for another DIY, but I didn't use it. So I decided to use it for this project to put it on top of my books. I'll be using some of these aster flowers. I really love the blue turquoise color. And I'm also going to use these green leaves right here. So for this heart, I wanted to sit this way. So I'm going to go ahead and hot glue the greenery and also some of those flowers off to the side of the heart. And basically that's all I'm doing to this heart. Okay, so the paint is dry now on the book covers, and this is how they look. I really love how they look. Somehow to me they look old, aged, or something. I don't know, I really love them. Now I'm going to be putting these labels on that says God's greatest gift is love. Now, since we are in the Valentines decor, I thought this would be very appropriate, since love is supposed to be in the air. The top book, the first book, I'm gonna label it with the word God's. I made these labels on my Cricut, but you can also stencil in the letters or write them in. And this is how this first book turned out. And the second book, I'm gonna label it with Greatest. And this is how it turned out. And the last book, I'm gonna label it with Gift is Love. And this is how this one turned out. And just look at the transformation on these three books. It looks absolutely beautiful, and I absolutely love the wording on them. And here's the heart. All I did is paint it and then added some flower and some greenery, and you have a really pretty pink heart. And I love what it represents, and that's love. This world could use a lot of that right about now. For this project, I'm going to be using some gallon paint stir sticks, and these come in a pack of 10. I purchased these at Lowe's for 97 cents. I started off with 6 sticks and then I added 4 more, so I used a total of 10 sticks. So I started to lay out my pattern, and I took 2 of these stir sticks and I joined the 2 ends together, and then I got 2 more stir sticks and repeated the same thing, and once again with the third set until I had a total of 6 sticks altogether. I'll also be using some popsicle sticks to hot glue them on the seams where the stir sticks meet. I'm just going to cut them down to size. And now I'm just going to add the hot glue and lay the popsicle stick down. I'm also going to use this wider popsicle stick to cover up the openings there on the side and also join all of the 3 popsicle sticks together. I'll be repeating that to the opposite side as well. So here I'm just pointing out the seams. As you can see, they're not joined, they're moving around. So what I'm going to do is add some popsicle sticks along the seams as well. So I'm just going to add some hot glue to the popsicle stick and place it there along the seam, and this will glue them all together. I'll repeat the same step to the other side. And this is how it turned out. Now I am going to add 4 more pieces of stir sticks because I want this to be a bit wider. This is how it looks with the additional 4 sticks. Now I know that it looks blue because I had painted it this color, but I didn't like how it looked, so then I changed it, and I'll show you that in just a bit. I'll be repainting it with this Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral. At first I went with that blue color, but I really didn't like how it turned out, so I decided to change the color altogether. I think this color looks better because it's more of a neutral color, so it'll transition well into spring and maybe even the summertime. And this is how it looks once the paint dried up. Now I'm going to be using this Waverly wax in the color Antique. I'll be using a paintbrush to brush it on, and then I'm going to get a piece of napkin and wipe it right off. And I'm just going to continue repeating those steps until I complete the whole board. So what I'm going for is a worn out piece of board. So I completely changed my mind from blue to now this right here. And with a small paintbrush, I also filled in the little holes. And then I wanted to bring out the lines where both of the boards met. So I went ahead and I used the thin brush and brushed on some of that wax right on the line as you see me do there. And now I'll be using some Waverly chalk paint in the color white. Next, I'll be dry brushing the white paint on the board. And this is how it turned out. To that board, I'm going to be adding these hearts from Dollar Tree. Now I'll be using these two wooden ones and then also this larger one that has the Happy Valentine's Day saying, but I'll be painting the back side of it. Before I start to paint it, I'm going to go ahead and remove this middle sign that says Valentine's just so that it doesn't come out on the other side when I start to paint. I'll be painting all three hearts with this Waverly chalk paint in the color Ballet Slipper. And this is how this first heart turned out, and now I'm gonna paint the other two. And this is how all three turned out. Now what I'm going to do with these is add a white line down the center. So I'm going to do some markings and then I'm going to add some painter's tape running across the center of all three hearts. And I'll be painting that strip with some Waverly chalk paint in the color white. I'll be doing that to the other two hearts as well. And while the paint is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and remove now the painter's tape. I also created these labels on my Cricut and they read, "This is us." I'm going to be placing them in the center of each heart down the white strip. I'll also be adding this heart here. I'm going to start with the first label that reads "This." And then I'm going to move into the middle heart that's going to read "Is," and it is also going to have a heart above the word "Is." And the third heart is going to have the label with the word "Us." I'm also going to be using this Dollar Tree garland that has these little faux pearls. So what I'm going to do is just hot glue it around the front of the hearts. And I'm not going to go all the way to the tip of the heart because that's going to be covered up. I'll be repeating the same process to these two. And this is how they turned out. And for the board, I'm going to add these labels that read "Our Story, Our Life, Our Home." And this is how the board turned out with the labels. Next, I'm going to take the garland and I'm going to wrap it around the pencil. And once you remove the pencil, you have this nice curly little garland. So what I did is hot glue the ends on the side of the board as I'm showing you right there. And this is how the curly garland looks on one side. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side. So right here is the center of all the boards meeting together. So what I'm gonna do is place one of the hearts right behind it, and I'm gonna be hot gluing it just like so. Now to reinforce it, I'm gonna turn it over to the back side, add some more hot glue, and add a piece of duct tape. And I'm going to repeat the same step for the other 2 hearts. And here are all 3 hearts once I've attached them onto the board. I'll also be using some of this greenery that I purchased at Walmart. I believe they're called lamb ears. So what I'm going to do is hot glue them behind the board just like so. What I want it to look like is a flower box of some sort. So I'm going to turn it over and hot glue the greenery on the back side because it was easier to do so. And this is how it turned out once I added all the greenery. Well, that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up, share, and comment also. You have yourself a blessed day. Until my next video, bye-bye, and God bless.